Hello, everyone. Darius here again from Career Skyrocket, and today I'm going to continue my conversation about preparing youth and young adults to enter the workforce. And today's topic is going to be on gap years, which I find to be highly effective. I know in America, a lot of people discourage their students from doing gap years because they really want them to figure out what they want to do by the time they graduate. And in my experience working with youth on a regular basis, that pressure is like horrible when you're working with youth and young adults because it's usually a very stressful time in their life, transitioning from high school to whatever they're going to do. And then they have that pressure put on them by parents and schools and everyone, it feels like, to make a decision about what they want to do. We know from psychology that our brains are not even developed until age 25. Yet we're forcing our students to make adult decisions by the time they're 17, 18 years old. So one of the things that I usually recommend to not all students is a gap year. And I think there's some benefits to a gap year. Number one, like I said, it relieves that pressure of having to make a decision by the time you graduate. It just kind of takes that pressure off of them and gives them time to take a step back and kind of figure out what they want to do. Number two, gap years also help students to gain experience while they're off, right? So a gap year is not just sitting around, or you hear about gap years traveling the world. That's great as well. But usually what I recommend is students do something productive while they're off during that time, whether that's finding a part-time job, volunteering throughout that time. You could travel, right? You could get an internship, trying new things just to kind of gauge their interest, their likes, their dislikes. Another thing that I feel makes a gap year beneficial is because it gives them a little bit of time away from school to avoid that burnout. Whether or not they go to college or trade school or whatever they do, we've been in school for many, many years without much of a break. So it gives them that time away to just do some things they enjoy, right? And that kind of helps with that self-awareness piece that I talked about before. Another thing it does is it helps them to get ready for whatever educational setting that they choose, right? So let's say they are going to go to college or they're going to go to a trade school. Most of the students that I work with now, they don't have their license like we used to. When I was in school, we had driver's ed. We took our license while in high school. This gives them time to go and get their license and to save for a car that they'll need to travel back and forth, to learn how to budget, which they'll need to do those things as well. And it's been proven from research that people who take gap years, they usually perform a little better in whatever educational setting that they choose. They also increases their job satisfaction because they've gained that awareness. They took that time away. Most other countries require their students to do things right after graduation. So they don't just go right to college or whatever they plan to do. Some countries require their students to take part in the military or do some type of volunteering. I just think here in America, we really, really focus on figuring out what you want to do immediately right after high school. That's why in some situations, I usually recommend a gap year. It's not for all students. It's for a student who's still lost a bit, but they have to be a student who's responsible as well. They're not just going to be sitting around and kind of doing nothing. So hopefully this information will help you or your student if they're trying to make a decision in their career, in their life. If you have questions about any of this, definitely reach out anytime. You can send me an email to dharris@careerskyrocket.com. Tomorrow I'll end my conversation on this topic. Hope you have a great rest of the week.